Hello and welcome to the second episode of my podcast. Kind of thought I would just talk to myself today, interview me, because who am I to be telling you anything or interviewing anybody or having a podcast? Well, my name is Valerie Crozier-Nicol. I am the CEO and founder of Kaleidoscope, which makes me laugh because it makes me sound very important. But I'm also the chief bottle washer and floor sweeper and HR officer and finance officer, and in other words, I do it all for myself, which is grand when it's the stuff I really, really like, which is working with people. When it's creating videos, podcasts aren't too bad. I just talk. But videos, when I have to edit, see, there, I can say I can talk, and then I trip over that. But when I have to edit videos, that doesn't come so easy to me. So it's not, it's not my first love. Working with people, helping people to make the changes that they want to make and are ready to make. You have to be ready to do this stuff. Then I just love doing that. Totally love doing it. So the thing for me is, I suppose that the 4 or 5 questions that I like to ask in these podcasts are, what were you doing before? So before I worked, I was a community worker I left university in 2010. I was a mature student. I was a mature student. Went back to university at 25. When I came out of university, I was a community worker. And then I went into local government. And my place in local government was 5 minutes round the road. Which meant I could nip home and take the child out at the places at lunchtime whenever it was school holidays and things. And I could come home and walk the dogs. Do you know, in the miserable winter where you go out and it's dark when you go out and it's dark when you come back. So I was able to take the dogs out for a walk during the day at lunchtime. And then our councils amalgamated over here with each other. And I was moved to a different building, only 20 minutes down the road. Like, for people that commute for 2 hours a day, they'll be going, what's your problem? But for me, the problem was I had to drive past the old building twice a day. Now, if I was doing it now, I would take a different route and I wouldn't torture myself like that. But back then, I wasn't as emotionally aware, wasn't as emotionally intelligent. My EQ was quite low. And shortly after I went down there, our funder changed as well. We used to have this lovely funder who knew exactly. So my job was a good relations officer, and good relations in Northern Ireland is promoting good relations between people of differing religions, political opinion, and race. Not easy subjects anywhere. Definitely not easy in Northern Ireland. But I loved it. I did love it. I really did love it. And our funder originally had an ex-good relations officer as their point of contact between them, the funder, the government body, the Assembly, Northern Ireland Assembly, and us, the good relations officers on the ground in the council areas. And so when you rang that contact person and said, I'm having this issue or I'm having this problem or whatever, it either immediately have advised you, or you'd have realised that you were under a little bit of stress or a little bit of pressure, or things in your area just weren't going the way they should. And he'd have come out for a cup of coffee and I'd have sat and he'd have talked to you and he'd have talked you through. And it was a hearts and minds exercise. He understood that we were trying to change the hearts and minds of people out in Northern Ireland, that they would respect each other. But the funder changed and they got rid of that contact person. And the people that we then had were statisticians who understood numbers and figures. Did we have 5 of these people and 5 of these people in the room at the same time? Didn't matter what they were talking about. Seemed to me, didn't matter what they were talking about. And I find this really, really, really stressful. So between having moved just 20 minutes down the road, I know it's pathetic. It really is pathetic. But when you're not well, you can't cope with things like that. And that was the problem, was I was already not well and I hadn't realised I wasn't well. Well, it turned out I had a very rare form of ovarian cancer called granulosa cell tumors. And I found that out after the operation. I had an operation to remove what they thought was a cyst, what they told me was a cyst. And so I found out the day before my daughter's 18th birthday. Um, which was distressing enough. But at that stage, it was cancer free, so it was really bizarre. And so I'd actually been ill for a lot longer than I'd realized, and these things were just because I didn't have the emotional intelligence, because I didn't use the tools that I now teach. Things got worse. I had phoned. A lot of it was stomach problems, not being able to sleep. So because I couldn't sleep, I was drinking coffee, and I was drinking 4 or 5 cups of coffee, and then I couldn't sleep, and it was a vicious circle. And a lot of stomach problems, which I now know is one of the, whenever your amygdala, your alarm, your scanner, your thing that scans for danger all the time, your amygdala in your brain scans for danger all the time. It's its job to keep you safe. And when it finds anything and it gets triggered, it takes your digestive system offline. But I didn't know all of that then. And so I'd booked to see a kinesiologist. And she had something like a 4 month waiting list. That was why she was that good. She had a 4 month waiting list. I'd also signed up to do Deepak Chopra's 21-day free abundance meditation. And I signed up to it about a week or so before it started. And I had all this idea that I would, the thing that I would be meditating for that I wanted was I wanted money, so I didn't have to go to work anymore. She says with her own business. But anyway, when it came to it, the morning, 5th of March, 2018, I put on Deepak and I meditated. And you had to say, what is the thing that you are meditating for? What is it that you want? And I had a huge light bulb moment, because what I wanted, what came to mind wasn't money, wasn't winning the lottery, wasn't a big payout for whatever. It was to be healthy again. And that was a huge light bulb moment for me, because I hadn't realized how ill I had allowed myself to get, and how very, very, very low I felt. So the beautiful thing about all these meditations and things is that when you come to the realization and you put it out to the universe in that way, through these meditations, etc., the universe, when you get to the right place, the universe will step in and help you on the other side. So when I said I just want to be healthy, I got up and I left for work, and I wasn't actually working in the other 20 minutes away. I was working in a different place. And when I got to the car park, just about 5 minutes from home, I got a phone call from the kinesiologist's team to say, we have a cancellation for today. Would you like it? I was like, oh boy, would I like it? Yes, please. So phoned my boss and I said, look, and I can remember the conversation. It's like, I can't do this anymore. I cannot do this anymore. I have this appointment. I'm staying in Antrim. I'm not coming down to the other place. And I'm going to this appointment this afternoon. And my boss said, do whatever you need to do, which was great. It was lovely. And I'll always be very thankful for that. So I went to the kinesiologist. The first thing she did was take me off coffee. And I was like, how am I going to get through the day? But took me off coffee and gave me a whole pile of vitamins and so on and so forth. And some of the stuff she said really, really, really resonated. And I went home from that appointment and I phoned my GP, and I was seeing him on the Thursday. And I went into work and I was telling people about what had happened at the kinesiologist. And some of them are going, well, what are you doing here then? If you're that ill, why are you here? I was going, I'm seeing the GP on Thursday. I have things to finish off. You just can't leave. I have this people pleasing expectation on myself, or I did have, that there was this standard of work that it had to be met and I had to do it. And it didn't matter how ill I was going to make myself, it had to be done. I had no boundaries in that sense. And I had this overwhelming need to prove myself. So I went to see the GP. I was sitting in the waiting room and I was anxiously thinking about, how long should I take off? Should I take a week? Fortnight. Fortnight's a bit long. Work to do. Can't really afford to take a fortnight off. So I went in to see the GP and told him all what was going on. And one of the things I have to say was I was just exhausted. And this is what I now know is burnout. And I got to the stage where I was broken. I was having a breakdown. I just couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't do any of it anymore. And he said, I know this is really counterintuitive, but if you're exhausted, I need you to exercise. I did laugh at him and he went, I know, but and as a friend of mine who used to run a local gym would have said, physical activity creates energy. And he said those exact words to me: physical activity creates energy. Valerie, I need you to exercise. And I'm putting you off for months. And I could have cried at that point. I could have cried because he'd taken the decision out of my hands. I no longer had to think about how long should it take. I've work to do. I've commitments, so on and so forth. He'd taken that decision out of my hand, and I was like, thank God. I didn't exercise for the first 2 weeks because I slept. And I get up to use the bathroom, to eat, and I went back to bed. And I slept for nearly a full fortnight. And then I did start to exercise. Fortunately, that wasn't really the story for me. I hadn't learned my lesson because I went back to work. Because it was the end of the financial year and there's things to be done and people needed paid and people needed grants signed off, and there's just so much to do. So I went back to work and it was very strange. And I was still quite ill and hadn't realized how ill I was. And I went back one of the days with a high blood pressure monitor on because the doctors were still keeping an eye on me because I wasn't well. And it comes out like a graph on a piece of paper. And you could see it kind of where my morning happened and then where I went into work. And then where my day in work happened and practically the second I clocked out. And it was only the morning bit before I left the house and the bit after I clocked out from work that were within the normal range. Everything else, well, it sat up high all day in a red sun. And then I kind of got to the point where I was thinking, I was in work on the phone to somebody, having a conversation about the results of this test. I'm saying, I could be standing here now and having a stroke. And I wouldn't know, I wouldn't feel it. It would just happen. What am I still doing here? Why am I still here? And I think it was later that day, I ended up with such bad palpitations that I thought I was having a heart attack. It was a panic attack. I was having a panic attack. But I thought it was a heart attack. And that was me. That was me finished with work. I came out that day and I didn't go back. And it was this, I had keep in touch days because I thought I was going back because I billed to pay. And that was the thing I'd said to my husband at the time, can't afford to leave work. What else would I do? I can't afford to leave. And he said, you can't afford to stay. It's time to leave. So while I was off sick, in this extended period, not the first months, but after I'd gone back and then I was off for an extended period. So I went to the stress control program run by the Northern Trust while I was off. And I still use a lot of the tools. And in fact, I have this little gratitude stone that I keep on my desk. And I left every so often, I ask myself, what can I be grateful for right now? And that's one of the tools that I teach through my Embraces program. I call it, in that, to fit in with the word embraces, I call it the attitude of gratitude. But really, it's a practice. You have to practice it all the time to train your brain. So your brain, because this little amygdala thing, this little scanner, this danger scanner in your brain is scanning all the time for danger. We have a negativity bias. And to pull that negativity round to a more positive mental attitude, we use tools like gratitude to pull it around. And I still practice that today. So that was my dark night of the soul, where I was off for so long and I slept. Seriously slept. In that first period I was off sick, I slept for the full fortnight. Stupidly went back to work. And then I was off for longer. That really laid me low. And I got to the point where I realized that nothing was going to change with the funder, and it wasn't going to go backwards. They weren't going to go back to the good old days where people were at the center of the focus rather than statistics. And my time was up. My time was over. As much as I had loved it, it was over, and I had to go out and find something new to do. So in terms of the name Kaleidoscope, the reason my business is called Kaleidoscope is because Kaleidoscope is a collection of butterflies. And one of my friends had the name Butterfly Life Coaching, so I couldn't go for that. So put it out to friends of mine. My friends of mine came up with the name Kaleidoscope, and as a collection of butterflies. And the reason for me, the butterfly, was this whole thing of as far as we know, there's nothing wrong with a caterpillar. Caterpillars are lovely. But one day they decide, and what I mean by as far as we know, I don't know what triggers them to go into the chrysalis. Maybe they don't feel well. Maybe they're exhausted, crawling, and think, I've had enough of this nonsense. But they go into the chrysalis, they build a chrysalis and they go in. And one of the things a lot of people doesn't know is that when they're in there, they actually don't really just grow a set of wings. They become almost like goo. They almost completely disintegrate and almost nearly regrow along with these new wings. And they have to use their brand new wings to break out of the chrysalis. Help strengthen them. And then they've got to rest to let the wings dry before they can fly away. So I see my journey through the dark night of the soul as that fortnight where I lay in bed as being me and my chrysalis. And it took me an awful long time after that fortnight before I really grew my wings and strengthened them. Because when I first came out of council, I still did my old job, but as self-employed. And then COVID happened. And that's when I retrained. And I'd done Reiki, and I'd done, I think, meditation. But when I was at home over the COVID period, I retrained in neurolinguistic programming, hypnotherapy, EFT tapping. And now I'm out teaching those same tools, breathing, meditation, teach people about stress awareness. I think the biggest message for me was learning that it wasn't that I couldn't cope. It was that I was having a biological reaction to a stressor. And that really saved my life, because I genuinely thought it was because I was so weak. I was so useless. I was broken. I couldn't cope. Why can everybody else cope and I can't cope? That wasn't the case. It wasn't the case at all. For the other people that could cope with the stuff that I couldn't cope was, they kind of knew some of this stuff. And even if they didn't know it, intellectually know it, that nobody told them, they were still kind of using the skills and the tools. And I'd had to learn all that. I had to learn how to breathe properly, how to meditate. Use EFT tapping. And I'm sitting there, I haven't had a panic attack since 2021. And that was my silly imagination where I was having a conversation with somebody that wasn't there. And I'd started the panic was with a consultant. And the consultant wasn't here in my house, but I was self-isolating before my next operation. And I was just spending too much time on my own, and I let my imagination run away with me. But because I had all my tools, I was able to sit up, put my feet on the floor so I was grounding, practice my deep breathing, and start tapping. And recognize that my little amygdala, my little danger scanner, was trying to tell me that I was frightened, and I needed to recognize that I was frightened. And then I needed to reassure myself that I was going to be okay, that the outcome had as much potential to be good as it did to be anything else. So that's kind of why I do this. And the reason for the podcast is because I want everybody to have access to this information. And the podcast for me is about, like I was saying about the questions right at the beginning, some of the questions are, you know, what was going on before? So for me, I had a job in local government. What happened? Well, what happened was I became very, very ill. What did I do afterwards? Well, eventually I retrained and I do this stuff now, having found my purpose and my path to help people to change when they're ready to change. And what do I want for the future? I want everybody to know this. I know, and that won't be me. I can't do it on my own. But whatever tools I can use to get the information out there to people, you are not broken. You are not weak. You are having a biological reaction to a stressor. And you have tools available to you to work with that biology to come to a place of calm. I think that once you know that, and once you start using the tools and you breathe and meditate and use your gratitude, I've lost my stone again. Keep putting my stone down. You use your little stone to think, what can I be grateful for right now? You train your brain, it's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system. You train it to look for the good stuff, to look for the green lights, for the parking spaces right outside the place you need to go to, or that little bit further away. But then you're grateful that it's a little bit further away because it helps you get your steps up. And so you start looking at these things differently. The things don't change. I come up against red lights. The red lights are momentary pauses where I can breathe during the day. And the little hillocks, the things that happen, because it's not that I'm human. Things still happen. People get ill. Work doesn't come through the door. Bills still need to be paid. And you do still have to, I have to edit videos. I'm creating a video package to be on my website for people to buy. And I have to make and edit those videos. So trust me, that tests all my tools. So it's not that it changes, it doesn't change the things, but it changes how I view the things. And that makes for a much, much more contented life. A happier life. I have more happy moments than unhappy moments. I remember when I first started doing this, and not even back in the stress awareness days, but in one of the subsequent programs I did, you had to do gratitude and you had to write down 10 things you were grateful for. I really struggled with that. I really, really struggled with that. And if it hadn't been for them giving you some examples. I don't know. And one day to the next, I'd have been writing the same stuff over and over and over again because I really could think. And I still do be very, very grateful for the same things over and over again. But more now because I am grateful for them. I'm really grateful for them. And for me, the gratefulness isn't, it's not the stone being the reminder and me going, what can I be grateful for right now? It's a start. It's this warm feeling of thankfulness. And so I think of, I'm grateful in the mornings for my house and a roof over my head and heating, indoor heating and indoor plumbing and warm, cozy bed and a good night's sleep, a warm shower and a fridge that has kept my breakfast cold overnight and a kettle to make my tea. And do you know, and those are all, somebody else will go, those are really basic. But actually, for some people, they're an absolute gift. There's some people that don't have the luxury of having those things. And I feel myself to be very, very, very blessed. And I feel the gratitude for those things. And that's just one of the tools. That's not the breathing and the meditation and so on and so forth that helps me to stay on this more even keel and to respond rather than to react. So that's why podcast for me is because I want to get this information out. And I think as well, I want to talk to a lot of people because you may not resonate with me or my story, but you might with one of my other guests. Some of the other people that will be coming along and saying what they did before, how the change happened, what their chrysalis moment was, and how they've re-emerged into this new life. You might resonate more with them and come to a place of understanding that you have the power within you to practice these tools and to start responding instead of reacting and have the type of life that you want. So going forward, well, now then, suppose I would say go to my website for more information, www.kaleidoscopevcn.co.uk. I'll put the links down below. Follow me on Facebook. Listen to the podcast. Do I have any? Why my book? I wrote a book. It seems really strange for me to say that I wrote a book. It really does, but I did. I wrote a book, and it's called Embrace, a journey to emotional well-being. That's on Amazon. I'll put the link below as well. And it's not, I openly, but it's done through Amazon self-print, and I make about £1 for every £4.99 of the book. So it's not about making money for me. It's about getting the information out there. And the PDF is like 77p. And I think it was only 77p because I couldn't make it free for whatever reason. You maybe have to have sold so many before you can make something for free. Or maybe I just didn't click on the right button. Which wouldn't, so yeah, that would be why. And what does the future hold? Who knows? More of the same, I hope. More of the same, I hope. I love helping people. I love it when somebody says that they encountered a situation that would have thrown them 6 months ago and would have sent them to bed or into a crying mess or whatever, and they handled it. That I love that. I loved them saying, uh, nothing on me. These tools are as old as the hills. Somebody taught them to me, and now I'm just out teaching them to somebody else. It's not something I've created. I've put together my package, Embraces. I've put together my book. I'm putting together this podcast. And I've had help along the way from lots and lots and lots of people. It's not that I've done this all on my own. And so I love people being able to say to me, I handled that differently. I got through that, and I got through it better than I've ever got through it before. I love people telling me that the tools have changed their lives, that just a simple act of breathing, properly, that deep belly breathing, or whichever one they choose, has worked for them to enable them to get through a situation. I love that. I love that. I love that people are taking control of their own lives and having the kind of life that they want for themselves, rather than always reacting. They're responding. So that's kind of what I hope for the future, is more of the same. People working with people and people getting better and better and better. So that's me, Valerie Crozier-Nicholl, Kaleidoscope. I hope you enjoyed this, find it informative, and I hope you listen to as many episodes as I get to produce. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.